If you're an author or plan to be one, get excited because this podcast is for you. Book Marketing Mentors is the only podcast dedicated to helping you successfully market and sell your book. If you're ready for empowering conversations with successful marketing mavens, then grab a coffee or tea and listen in to your host, international best-selling author Susan Friedmann.
Listeners, I'm excited to share some good news. Podcast Connections is our brand new episode sponsor. If you feel your book deserves more reach but visibility hasn't come easily, podcast guesting can open the right doors. The team at Podcast Connections gets you in front of the audiences who need your message and your expertise. If podcast guesting is something you're interested in, please contact them at podcastconnections.co and tell them you heard about them on the Book Marketing Mentors podcast. And now, let's get on with the show. Welcome to Book Marketing Mentors, the weekly podcast where you learn proven strategies, tools, ideas, and tips from the masters. Every week, I introduce you to a marketing master who will share their expertise to help you market and sell more books. Today, my special guest is Jesse Holmes. He helps coaches struggling with lead generation to get more high-paying clients in 90 days without ads, sales funnels, or cold DMs through strategic word of mouth. Jesse, it is a pleasure to welcome you to the show, and thank you for being this week's guest expert and mentor.
Thank you so much for having me, Susan. I appreciate it.
We're going to be talking about how our authors can get high-paying coaching clients. Now, I know that many of my authors expect, and not only mine, but just nonfiction authors in general, expect their books to generate coaching leads, but instead they hear, oh, that was a great book, but nothing moves forward from there. Let's start off by having you say, what actually is missing from this? What are they not doing that they should do to rather make that happen?
That's a fantastic question. When they are just waiting and hoping that someone who reads their book becomes a client, I believe the gap is not having a purposeful conversation with that lead or the person reading their book in order to lead it down the process of discovery and warming them up to becoming an actual client. They expect maybe the book to do all of the heavy lifting, but without a conversation, without a direct plan and conversation to take them from reading your book to being a potential client, there's just going to be a lot of hoping and praying and not a lot of strategy and purpose.
That hoping and praying, there's a lot of that going on out there in the book marketing world. Let's bridge that gap and say, okay, we have to have a purposeful conversation. How do we get to do that?
But it all depends, I guess, on the market and who you're selling your book to. Give me an example of some of the book authors that you work with or may be listening. Are they mostly in the business space? Are they relationship space? Are they in the fitness space? What kind of spaces are most of your nonfiction authors in?
They could be in all of the above. They're either business coaches, motivational, inspiration. They could be life coaches. Yeah, let's say business or life coaches. Let's look at those two.
Excellent. So the first thing I would do is try to bridge from when a person purchases or reaches out and consumes your book to having a good follow-up discussion that doesn't feel like I'm going to start selling you something. It's about having a good lead and bridge in the conversation. My favorite one that I teach all of my clients is a very simple one, especially if you're a business coach. But it's just, tell me more about what you do. Let me see if I can help you in your business. Let me see if I can maybe send you a referral or send you people your way or send some business or put you in touch with the right people. But just leading with, okay, you've read my book. Obviously, you have some sort of business or some sort of interest in business. Tell me more about what you do and let me see how I can help you.
I love the fact that you're turning it round and having the coach, the author, ask the questions, because I always feel you're in control when you're asking the questions and you can direct that conversation. And so often the author's not prepared. And I think you said that right at the beginning, that there isn't a strategy, it isn't clear. And then the conversation goes to, well, I wrote this book, and it's like, okay, and now what? What's that book going to do for me?
Right.
Tell me more.
That's right. So just being willing as to want to have the heart of wanting to help that person that read your book even a little bit more and taking an interest in them. I've had no one say no to this one email or message that I send out to them saying, let's find a time where you can tell me more about what you do. Let me see if I can, help send some business your way. And by leading with that, people are excited, like, oh, absolutely. Well, she's an expert. She's an author. She's written this book and they're looking to help my business even more. How could I not want to hop on a call like that?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And I know that you talk about strategic word of mouth. Talk to us more about that. What does that really mean?
What I believe is strategic word of mouth is having partners who are going to make introductions for you to your ideal prospect. The goal is to have a warm introduction email show up in your inbox every day with someone that's pre-sold and pre-qualified with what you do. In my experience, there's absolutely no hotter lead than a warm intro email in your inbox saying, oh, you absolutely have to work with Susan. She's absolutely amazing. That's one of the easiest calls to hop on and close.
I love those calls. Yes, we need more of those. So this whole idea of partnering, which again is something that I so believe in, and that was really one of the main reasons how I got to sell 500,000 copies of my first book, and I sold it to one company. And if I look at, well, what happened? How did this happen? And it was a strategic building of a relationship with this company. It took maybe 2 years before that order actually came through. And my goal was not to sell books per se. I was looking to do more training and coaching. But at the crux of this was the fact that I built this relationship with them. But that takes time. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And it takes time. It takes trust. It takes confidence and it takes consistency. Any relationship worth building is going to be worth reinvesting into continually to build that, especially if it's going to be a profitable relationship.
In order to do this strategically, you can only have a certain number of people that you're doing this with at any one time. How do you go about selecting which are the right people to pursue this relationship with?
I would suggest people that are already in your warm network that have a relationship with or have connections with who your ideal client is. Instead of just spending all of our time trying to reach out to our ideal client, it's about thinking one rung higher or one step above and say, who has an excellent relationship with my ideal client already? Maybe they do business with them, or maybe they just have good connections and good relationships with them. Say, how do I build a relationship and a connection with somebody who knows a lot of my ideal client? And by going to that person and being strategic with how I help them build a relationship with them and get them to trust me so that they send me a referral, that just is a way to get in touch with my ideal client in a way that is pre-sold and pre-qualified because they have a trusting relationship with another person that a person says, you got to work with Susan. She's amazing. And that's just another layer of proof and credibility and trust so that when you have that conversation with that potential client, they're almost pre-sold and warmed up to who you are because of another trusted source.
I know that what you're doing is you're doing it and saying, I can help you do this in 90 days. Talk us through what might be the steps that you would have them go through in order for that to happen in 90 days.
Yeah, it's a great question. Step number one is find out who your ideal client is already spending money with. Who do they already have a relationship with? Who are they spending money with? Who are they getting services from that, are non-competitive to yours, but would be a good intro from that person to your services? So that's absolutely step number one, is just identify who do I already know? Who's in my warm network? Maybe who's been reaching out to me on LinkedIn or Facebook and wanting to connect with me? Who are those type of people that I can start a conversation with? And my recommendation for most people is try to have one conversation a day. It's pretty impressive how quickly time goes by, and next thing you know, a month or two goes by, and if you just focus on one high quality conversation a day, you'd have 30 to 60 potential referral or strategic partners ready to send more people your way.
When you talk about a conversation, is that literally physically like you and I are having this conversation? Or would this be via email or text? I mean, how would you have that conversation? And then about how long would you spend with this?
Yeah, I believe the best way to build trust and rapport is to hop on a call or hop on a Zoom or a meeting. That seems to be the quickest way to make that happen. And I would suggest, one 15-minute conversation a day with somebody by wanting to learn more about them and trying to help them. That just builds that trust and gets them to know, wow, this person has my best interest in mind. They seem like a helpful, giving person. Maybe I want to reciprocate. That's the best way to lead, is with the golden rule: do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. So by reaching out one a day to somebody who might have a relationship with your ideal client, saying, hey, tell me more about what you do. Let me see if I can send some referrals or business your way, and just hop on a call and talk to them real quick. You'll very quickly be able to build a relationship. And next thing you know, they're sending warm leads and clients your way.
Yeah. And that whole law of reciprocity, you're absolutely right. If I give you something, then it's almost like a default. It's like, well, I'd like to give you something as
That's
well,
right.
as a way of saying thank you.
That's right.
That's something to take into definite consideration. Talk to us more about that conversation where you're saying, how can I help you? But this might not necessarily be the person who you are going to do business with, but they know somebody, as you said, who you are very interested in. I'm
Right.
interested in the ABC company, but
That's right.
I know you do business with them already. Instead of me saying, well, could you introduce me? How would you have that conversation?
Absolutely. It's all about not focusing on what can I get, but it's focusing on what can I give. Listening to them first and say, tell me more about who's your ideal client? What are your big plans for this year? Who can I help you get in touch with? And maybe I have someone in my network that's like that, or maybe I know someone who knows somebody in my network, or maybe I can do, a quick interview with them and put them in front of my list or my social media network. There's always some way I could give value to this person to trigger that reciprocity, to be, oh, hey, by the way, I'm looking for this type of person. Do you know this type of person that would be a good fit for what I do? And just by leading by giving instead of just trying to lead by getting.
Do you believe that LinkedIn is the best platform for this, or what other platform do you use?
I'm terrible at LinkedIn. Honestly, it's just good with any person that has an interest in wanting to communicate with you or reach out to you, or has someone that you're trying to connect with in mind. You'd be surprised. There's sometimes I'd have a conversation with somebody and say, wow, this person doesn't know any of the people that I'm trying to get a hold of. And next thing you know, they send me 5 referrals, or I go into a call saying, oh, this person definitely could help me. And they actually know they don't have anyone that they can think of to refer to me. So you never know. And so never prejudging and just going into it like, I'm going to have one good conversation a day. Some conversations are going to be better than others. But if I always get into that habit of leading with that value and being that person that's always giving and trying to help connect other people with who they're trying to reach out with, good things always happen.
Yeah. I mean, I love doing that. It's one of my favorite things, is introducing people to other people who I feel might be a good fit for them, or if they need a particular service. Let's say one of the people that I've sent people to recently was like Carol Abramson. She works with book awards.
Mm.
And many of my authors are looking, well, how could they potentially get a book award for their publication? So,
Mm.
yeah, I've got people, audiobooks, I've got people who I love sending them to. So, yeah, you just never know. However, sometimes someone says to me, well, who could you recommend or refer me to? And I was like, I'm not sure. How about the situation where you don't necessarily feel comfortable referring somebody? How do you handle that one?
Oh, that's a good question. That's why it's always good to learn as much about the other person first before making a promise. That's why I have that qualifier. So, tell me more about what you do. I'll see if I can send some business your way, because that just gives me a chance to, feel them out and see if they're a trustworthy source. Because you're absolutely right. When it comes to sending referrals, your own trust and reputation is on the line. So you want to be very specific and careful with, who you send each other way. But it's also very important with how we build trust with other people, knowing that if they're going to send me a referral, their trust and reputation is on the line. So I got to make sure that they know that I'm going to take care of their clients. I'm going to make them look good and take care of them. But usually what I do is I'll at least listen to people, at least try to see who I could put a connection or with them, or the bare minimum, I'll, do a quick interview with them and I'll hear them out and at least record something with them and try to put them in touch with people that may be a good fit. But sometimes, I've very rarely, but there are sometimes people are like, oh, you know what, maybe I'll put this on the back burner, but it's okay because it's all part of the process.
Exactly. I mean, you're not going to have a whole home run each time that you do this. Yeah, there are people I have conversations with. I was like, there is no way that I feel comfortable referring you, versus others where I say, wow, I can't wait to share you with, my clients or somebody who I feel could potentially use your services. So we've talked about step number one, having that purposeful conversation. What next? Where do we go from here?
So yeah, step number one is find out who my ideal client already has a relationship with. Step number two is using that irresistible appointment booking email that I mentioned. It's pretty much just let's find a time where you can tell me more about what you do, and I'll see if I can send some business your way. Using that message is just a good way to start a good conversation with somebody, leading it with value. They're usually very excited to hop on the call with you. And most people that are going to hop on a call like that are going to want us to reciprocate. They're always going to say, yeah, absolutely. Let me see if I can do the same for you. So you're going to be attracting the right people with a message like this. And my recommendation is, try to send this message at least once a day to someone in your warm network. And you'll be surprised at how many people you can start networking with and referral partners you can generate. So that's step number two, is sending one of that message every single day to someone in your warm network.
What method do you use to introduce somebody to someone else? I use emails. Do you have another way of doing this?
Yeah, I like using email or a group chat, depending if they use Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn, but I prefer email, usually the best. But yeah, it's just to the effect of, you guys got to connect. You guys got to talk. This person's awesome at what they do, because that's the best endorsement that I find I receive, is someone saying, oh, you're going to love this person. Talk with this person. It's very valuable.
You said something really super important earlier, and that is the trust, that it's my reputation on the line that I'm referring somebody. Let's say I want to refer you to one of my clients. They're expecting, if it's a referral from Susan, that this person's authentic, trustworthy, because I believe in her and what she has to say. I think that's a really important part, that your reputation is on the line when you're taking that lead and referring someone.
Absolutely. And it's knowing that is why it's very important. And step number three, I say, is you got to prove to the person that you're going to make them look good. You got to prove that they're worthy of your trust. They're going to prove that when they send you a client their way, that you're going to boost their reputation and their brand, not to tarnish it. So the best way I find to do that is, again, leading with giving. And it could be they're giving with trying to connect people with other people, or giving tips and secrets and strategies and things that work really well in your business. It's about leading with value and with giving. And that's the best way to build that trust and make other people look good, because at the end of the day, even if they send a referral to you and they don't become a client, if they know that at least you still gave value to that person, that it wasn't a wasted conversation.
And I have had situations, for instance, I refer editors or designers. And sometimes, and I say right up front, it may be that this person isn't the right match for you, especially when it's a service, like editing or designing. And I say, come back to me and let me know that, because I've got other people. But I think this was the first person that I think would be right for you, but I can't guarantee.
That's a
People
very
have,
good that's a good qualifier. Yeah, that's
yeah.
great.
So I want to make sure that it's not just this one person, because not everybody gets on with everybody.
That's right. That's right.
And there are triggers, and it's like, okay, no, I don't know that I feel comfortable. I always say it's like a marriage. I mean,
That's
especially when it's somebody's doing work, particularly with a book, with the editing and the graphic designing or the layout. if you don't feel comfortable with that person, then tell me.
Mm.
I mean, I vet my people, but again, we just don't know. People
That's
have
right.
different triggers with other people. What else would we need to know in order to get this high paying client?
The fourth step is being very, very specific on who you're looking for an intro to. A lot of the times we can get stuck in this networking trap of being consistently just referred to more referral partners instead of our actual ideal client. And so it's being very clear on saying, I am looking for this specific person for this specific program or service that I offer. Who do you like that comes to mind that would be a good fit for this? And being very specific and purposeful in who you're looking for an introduction from.
Yeah. First of all, is that clarity of you knowing, and that helps. Obviously, that strategic word of mouth, which you talked about earlier, just really knowing and being clear. Help me with this, but that could be a mistake too, that so many people are not necessarily clear about what they want exactly.
It's so true. You got to be definitely laser clear on it. But what's nice is if you follow this process and you have good conversations with people, it's a good way to become clear because you'll see what resonates with people, what people are having troubles with or problems with, and what they're needing help with. And just having these consistent conversations with people that might know or be your ideal client, you'll come very quickly to be like, oh, you know what? When I said this way, people really reacted to it well, or I said it the other way and no one seemed very interested at all. So it's a good way to even become clear and hone in your offer and what value you have to provide to the marketplace.
And how about with your own clients? Is this an exercise that you do right from the get-go? Is saying, okay, let's get clear with what you're wanting first before, you start looking at who.
A little bit of both. It's actually funny that you mentioned that 'cause I work mostly with coaches, and a funny trait of a lot of coaches that I find is they're a different coach every other day almost. So you have this coaching ADD almost. And I had one client that came on. She was wanting to be a parenting coach, and then after a while, it was like she actually wanted to be she ran a lot of businesses successfully. She actually wanted to be a business coach. But instead of me trying to get her clear on what she had to offer, and we did do some exercises on that, I had her start making these introductions and reaching out to different strategic partners. And she started realizing very quickly, wait a second, when I'm talking to these people, this doesn't resonate as well as maybe this other thing. So they kind of come hand in hand. The more conversations you have, the quicker you'll realize, wait a second, maybe I'm not meant to talk about this. Maybe there's something else that I'm more interested in. And so they definitely run in tandem. I find the more leads and referral partners that you start generating, the clearer you'll get on your offer and vice versa.
Yeah. And it's true. I mean, we do change direction. I actually had this conversation recently with a coach. It's like, she said, well, why do you want this now? And I say, well, I've evolved. I've
Mm,
changed. My business has changed, and I've got to go along with that change, even though, and this is the toughest thing too, sometimes people know you from previous life, and so they still think, oh, you're in
mhm,
this business. I mean, I used to be, for 25 years, I was in the trade show business. I was
mm,
known as the trade show coach. People knew me like in
mm,
that role. And I haven't been in that role for 15 years plus, and yet
mm.
people still remember and say, oh, are you still going to these trade shows and stuff? I say, no, no, that was sort of another lifetime away.
That's right.
Getting clear and for people to see you in this new role, which is sometimes really hard,
Mhm,
really, really hard,
mhm.
especially when you've known this people in one way. And
That's very true, and that's why I find it's a very good habit to always is people saying, well, you get on this call and you ask people to tell more about what they do in their business. Like, but can't they just find that all on their LinkedIn profile or social media? I'm like, yeah, but you'd be surprised. A lot of people are in the evolution as well, and they have new projects and new dreams and new things that they're working on coming up, and they're always excited to talk to you about it. And so it's always good to start and figure out, hey, what are you working on? What's your biggest passions and big things that you're working on? And leading with that and taking interest in them. And then they'll usually flip around and say, oh, actually, by the way, are you still doing that or what are you doing now? And they'll be more understanding of when making that shift or change in your business because they're probably doing the same thing.
in this day and age, there's so much just having that contact. that one-on-one contact and being interested in the other person. That is lacking so much these days. I think that helps you stand out from the crowd. Just saying, oh, yeah, tell me more about how I might be able to help you or what you're working on now, because we're looking to help each other potentially. I think that's a beautiful approach. What about mistakes people make, Jesse? What are some of the common mistakes that you see authors, coaches make?
A lot of mistakes are just not being consistent. That's probably the biggest mistake is they'll get excited about process like this and they'll send out a whole bunch of messages to a bunch of people and then they'll forget to do it again the next day. It's really understanding that it's a process, and if you're in it for the long term, that it's about consistent, focused growth and not changing your mind every 2 seconds. They have, this is working for this. So the biggest mistake, and the biggest mistake, honestly, for me as well, is when something works, wanting to change. I don't know what it is about human nature, but something works, like, okay, that worked. Let me try something different, instead of, that worked. Let's keep doing it until it doesn't work. That's probably my biggest mistake I ever made.
Yeah, we overthink it and think, oh, well, if it works here, let me try there. It might be something different and it would work. Now, what about if you have these conversations, you say, have a conversation every day, and you don't feel that anything's happening and you start getting disillusioned with the process? Just say after a week, you have 5 or 6, 7 conversations, and you're like, nothing's come of this.
That's a common with any goal that you're trying to achieve, whether it's trying to get in better shape or a diet or a new hobby or interest. There's always going to be this thing where I don't feel like I'm making progress. And usually that's not a reason to quit. It's like you went to the gym every day for 1 week and you don't notice your muscles being bigger. Therefore, I must stop. No. It just means that you're early. The results haven't kicked in yet, not that you're doing something wrong. That's why I say, just do one a day, set the pace so you're not going to burn yourself out, that you can stay consistent with it, because you'd be shocked at, you never know where that next perfect strategic partner is going to come from. That is going to completely change and blow up your business. You just got to keep, staying consistent and staying focused on it, and you'll hit the right person. And it's like, next thing you know, that next person has completely blown up your business and put you in touch with a ton of the perfect people, but only because you stayed the course, you stayed consistent at it. And, there's going to be, good conversations and bad conversations, but it's all about making it sustainable and easy and enjoyable so that I don't get burnt out or don't get frustrated if I'm not seeing immediate results.
I think you said something really important there, is that enjoy it. Have fun with it. If it starts to be a drag and it's like, oh, I've got to do this. Oh, no, not again. Then there's no fun in that at all. And you're like, if you don't want to do it or don't enjoy doing it in any way, so you've got to make it enjoyable as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So this is a great segue, Jesse, for you to tell our listeners how they can find out more about you and the services that you offer.
Yeah, absolutely. My website, effortlessgrowth.co. You can download and get a copy of that appointment booking script that I mentioned. You put your email address there and I'll get that. And on the thank you page, you'll be invited to follow me on Facebook. That's the best way to get a hold of me, and message me on Facebook or email me at Jesse, Jesse, at effortlessgrowth.co. For anyone that is a coach or an author looking to get more high paying clients in the next 90 days, I'm going to use the same thing that I say to everyone. Like, let's find a time where you can tell me more about what you do and let me see if I can send some business your way. I'm consistently networking and building connections with people that might be a perfect fit for your coaching program.
Thank you. I think that's wonderful. And thank you for the gift. I'll put all that information in the show notes. But just to say, listeners, Jesse and I recently met on a partner relationship building program. This stuff works. And now he's been on the show. He's going to come and talk to my group. And we just don't know where this might lead. I believe in it and I feel it's so exciting. And Jesse, you shared some amazing nuggets, but I'm not going to let you go just yet. We always have our guests leave our listeners with a final golden nugget. What's yours?
The golden nugget, I think, today is going to be just the golden rule is do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. So if you're looking at generating more referrals and leads for your business, ask yourself, how can I help generate some leads or referrals or business for somebody else?
Oh, that's so beautiful. So true. Thank you again for sharing your wisdom. And listeners, if your book isn't selling the way you wanted or expected to, let's you and I jump on a quick call together to brainstorm ways to ramp up those sales because you've invested a whole lot of time, money, and energy, and it's time you got the return you were hoping for. So go to bookmarketingbrainstorm.com to schedule your free call. And in the meantime, I hope this powerful interview sparks some ideas you can use to sell more books and get more clients, especially if they're high-paying ones. And until next week, here's wishing you much book and author marketing success.